This is Greg Johnson with Blue Book. I'm here today with our retail editor, Pamela Riemenschneider. Pamela is not in the office again this week. You're in an airport. Which direction are you going? I know you're going south for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So last week I was on the southern border of the U.S., and this week I actually went north of the border to Leamington and Kingsville, Ontario, to talk greenhouses.
Well, that's funny because this just today, the USMCA passed the Senate, which is generally good for people in the produce industry. There's only a small group in the U.S. Southeast who isn't crazy about it. And I have a small angle of that in my coverage of USMCA, but that's a good thing. It's going to President Trump's desk, and then the other two countries, America's north and south neighbors, have to officially pass it, which they said they would. So that's a
I
good
noticed
thing.
that. I noticed that you also remodeled the office there back there, eh? We're talking produce.
That's right. I knew you were north of the border, so I had to put up my Canadian flag.
Yeah. Well, this has been my first visit to the Leamington area in 14 years, I think. And a lot of big changes are happening here. There's a couple of key changes that I've seen from my first trip way back when I first got into the produce industry, and now is you drive around at night in Leamington and Kingsville, and you don't even need your headlights almost. It's so bright from all of the grow lights that are going on. And of course, here in Canada, or there in Canada, I'm actually in Detroit now, cannabis is legal for recreational use. So a lot of those grow lights were put in for that industry, but the fruit and veg guys, because they're doing fruit as well, are actually getting into the deal as well. The infrastructure for power is there now, and it didn't used to be. Because I remember asking, naive young cub reporter, do you guys grow with lights at night to have production in the winter? And everybody pretty much laughed me out of there and said, no way, that there's no way the market supports it. And it looks like the market is actually demanding a winter product from this area of the country now.
Well, you could call it fruit and veg if you just want to consider that tomatoes are technically a fruit, but I know they grow strawberries in greenhouses in Leamington now that are starting to pick up, so that's good to
Yeah,
hear.
actually, I was driving around with Tim, our sales guy, and I was explaining to him in my produce with Pamela kind of way that actually not only are tomatoes a fruit, but so are cucumbers, bell peppers. All of these things are botanically fruits, not vegetables, if it's a suitcase for seeds. So, yeah, all of these are actually fruits, but the Ontario Greenhouse Vegetable Growers Association, which represents cucumbers, tomatoes, and bell peppers grown in Ontario, classifies those crops are what they cover, and any of the other supplementary crops. There's lettuces, there's strawberries, there's even some beans as well that are being grown in there. I heard that after a couple of years of stagnant growth, they're actually seeing acreage go up about 10 to 12% this year. So more people getting into the game, and the bigger getting bigger.
Not only that, but the tomato market's pretty hot right now. I know it's
that was
coming out of Mexico. It's $30 to $40 a carton, and it has been for almost a month.
And the guys here and gals here, pretty much if you have tomatoes and you're not under contract, you're buying everybody lunch, because they are all pretty happy with if you've got them, you're happy. If you don't have them, you wish you had lights, because that means you would have some winter tomatoes here. The other thing that the lights are also offering is allowing them to have a fresher local product and not have to be on the truck 3 to 5 days through the United States from Mexico, because that's the time of year that we're seeing a whole lot of Mexico supplies. A lot of people don't know why the market's so high, but the speculation is here among almost every grower that I talked to said that the Mexican growers have to be producing less than they used to because of the uncertainty from the tomato suspension agreement.
Yeah, I know it's not a happy time as people on the southern border figure out how it's going to work with the increased inspections. I actually have a story this week where I traded emails with Dante Galeazzi with the the TIPA, the Texas group, and then Lance Youngmeyer with FPAA. And they both said there's a lot of concern that inspections are not, I mean, basically almost all the loads are going to have to be inspected, and there's a lot of concern that that's not realistic. So there's a lot up in the air in the next few months for sure.
All right. The other thing that I was doing here is a lot of store checking, so you can look forward to stores on both the U.S. and Canadian side of the border. Saw a lot of different ways of presenting produce, a lot of different types of things, especially in the Canadian side, some stuff I'd never seen before in retail. So you can look forward to those from Produce with Pamela.
What's a sneak preview on something they do in Canada that we don't do in the U.S.?
Indian carrots. And like carrots from India, there are redder, but not quite red carrots. And then I saw the dragon fruit that was in a really thick plastic bag that I'd not seen it displayed like that here in the States.
Yeah, they're not big on plastic in Canada.
And the other thing too I saw was South African grapes. Do we see South African grapes in the U.S.?
All right. Well, why don't you get on a plane and get back to Texas?
Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter, head to producebluebook.com and sign up. And I see that, Greg, you also are representing Kansas City there. So go Chiefs.
Big game this weekend. Got the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully a Super Bowl year.
For sure. I'll be watching from Austin, Texas. See ya.
All right. See you.
Greg, and that's it for the Produce Reporter newsletter. We can read this. This is Michigan Secretary of State. Hang on. Can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay, we'll wait.
You have to mention my football team playing this weekend.